Hey everyone, Temporal here, and for this session, we are talking about Reinhardt. As everyone knows, he's an incredibly overpowered hero. You can load up into your ladder games there, you can load up in there, and you're gonna find like 4 people on each team want a Reinhardt. And if that's not a sign that he's really in a really powerful state, I don't know what is. So we're going to help out Blizzard. We've done this once before. We did the nerfs for Hanzo, the buffs for Hanzo that he really needed. We covered that in a similar video. We've been known to help out consult for Blizzard like this before. So that's what we're going to do again. We've gone and said, okay, what nerfs can we deliver to Reinhardt to make him more balanced for the ladder? Like, for the vast majority of the ladder, 4+ people on both teams are going to want him played. Clearly too powerful of a hero. Way, way better. You know, he's like the only hero, one of 2 heroes with a really good shield. And the other hero that had a good shield, they went and are taking that away from her for Overwatch 2. But we know Blizzard is swamped. They're redesigning, working on a bunch of heroes for Overwatch 2. So we're going to help them out, do this one for them. So let's move on here and let's talk about the first thing for Reinhardt. Reinhardt is clearly the shield hero. That makes sense. That shield is really powerful. So it doesn't make any sense that Reinhardt has a one-shot. Who thought it was okay to give a tank, and not even like a tank that doesn't have a shield, but a tank with a shield, and those are really good, a one-shot ability? Pin. Reinhardt can't have pin. First things first, we have to take that away. So we're going to take away his ability to one-shot with this pin thing that just defeats people. That's stupid. And we're instead going to give him an ability that's inspired actually by Star Wars The Old Republic PvP. So what you're looking at here is this ability called Guard. And let's go ahead and bring that up on screen. So now we have this ability called Guard. And as you can see, this gets used on someone else. And what we're going to do with this is we're going to let Reinhardt, instead of targeting an enemy with pin and one-shotting them, he's going to target a friendly, and when he targets that friendly, that target is going to have 50% of the damage they take transferred over to Reinhardt. And if Reinhardt has his shield down, he'll take that damage on his health. If he puts his shield up, he'll take that damage on his shield. And let's give this an infinite duration so he can just throw Guard on his Ana or something like that, but then he'll take extra damage, but maybe give it an internal cooldown where after he casts it, he can't uncast it or he can't move it for, I don't know, 2 seconds, something like that. And you might be thinking, hey, this is like a bubble type ability. You see this? It's sort of bubbly. It's too much infringing on Zarya's design space. No. Zarya's gonna have a longer cooldown to her bubble. Her bubble makes her do more damage. Her bubble just, absorbs damage into the ether. This is different, and if it seems like it's intruding on Zarya's design space, that's just because Zarya, another really good tank hero, has a good ability, and it makes sense to go to that well. They're not too close. It's perfectly fine. That would be saying, like, Cassidy and Ashe's weapons are too close. So I really like this one. Get rid of the one-shot. That doesn't belong on the shield hero. Instead, give him this ability to split damage, to relieve pressure on someone that's being dove there. That'll help bring down his power level, because why Reinhardt is so good and overpowered is definitely that he can one-shot people. He does so much damage. Okay, so now let's move on to the next thing that we will need for Reinhardt here. And the thing is, Earthshatter is just too good. Earthshatter is like, Reinhardt gets to walk into the fight with that shield up, be really influential at the beginning of the fight. Maybe he just knocks over the fight and wins the fight pretty much by himself for his team with an Earthshatter. Or maybe he goes in there and he gets to walk into the fight with that shield up, protect his team, and then also finish off the fight with this AoE stun damage, even does 250 damage to anyone that's at close range. Like, this is way too much. This is too good. That last buff was just a little too much for Reinhardt. Let's completely go back to the drawing board on the ability to make it fit better with the essence of Reinhardt, our shield hero here. So we're going to replace Earthshatter with an ultimate. Oop, didn't quite mean to do that. We're going to replace... how did we get black and white? Interesting. Whatever. We're going to replace Earthshatter with the ability to... Yeah, I don't actually know how we did that. We're going to replace Earthshatter with the ability to go ahead and make his entire team get 40% damage reduction, but not his entire team, only his entire team if they're gathered close to him. So it's going to be a similar like Earth Shatter type radius where it would be like that, except instead it'll just sort of be a circle around him and it'll just trigger for a moment. They can't like walk into it to get it like Transcendence. They'd have to be in that circle when he uses it, so they need to stack a bit. And what it's going to do is then for, let's say 3 seconds, his entire team gets 40% damage reduction. Okay? They also get CC immunity, so he gets to share some of that lovely anti-CC stuff that tanks get, and he also gets a CC cleanse for them. So he's going to use his ultimate, and it's going to give us this situation where he does some damage reduction for his team if they're close to him for 3 seconds. It cleanses any CC that's on them, and it makes them CC immune. So that means they can't get, and CC would be stuns, it would be slows, it would be things like May's Blizzard, it would be things like Lucio's Boop, it would be things like Diva's Boop, it would be things like Winston trying to knock them away with Primal, it would even get rid of things like Hack and Purple and stuff like that. Yeah, and that's definitely a nerf, that's definitely worse than Earth Shatter, that's definitely an ability that we can look at and say, yeah, this makes more sense. No more Reinhardt just winning the team fight for his team all by himself, knocking over the opponents, taking someone else out with that 250 beginning portion of the shatter, and just sort of winning like that. That was way too much power for Reinhardt. This puts him in a much, much better place. For sure. Okay. So now we need to go ahead and move on to his next ability. So again, he is this defensive shield hero. I don't know why we're in this place where Blizzard thought it was a good idea. I mean, they've had some good ideas, but I don't know why they thought it was a good idea to make his Fire Strike do 100 damage. That's even more damage than his swings do. I don't know why we do that. So we're going to get rid of that. And the way that what we're going to do instead to sort of compensate him for that a bit is we're going to bring his Fire Strike damage down to 60. Fire Strike is only going to do 60 damage because it just doesn't make sense for Reinhardt to do that much damage. And we need to nerf it. We need to bring this hero down. But in exchange for bringing that down, taking 40 damage off of his Fire Strike, we're going to make it apply a 30% slow to anyone that it hits for 1 second. It's much more acceptable for tanks to CC people, to control people, and a 30% slow for a second won't be at all overpowered in a first-person shooter where people are relying on aim mechanics and lining up headshots as a serious damage multiplier. That's good. CC control for a tank, that makes sense. Fits in his kit way better than damage, and it's a nice nerf to him. You won't see him just going, I'm charging up a bunch of ultimates with Fire Strikes, and I'm shattering and then winning and doing all that stuff there. So that's what we're going to go ahead and do. That's really going to help them out. So at this point, he might be balanced. Reinhardt might be in a pretty darn good spot. We'd really have to hand it over to the elite Q&A team, the team of full GM Q&A testers over at Blizzard. They're really, really good. They certainly, really have their finger on the pulse for how the game feels at all times. It's kind of foolish, actually, that they invited OWL people on to help out with their beta like that. Like, we know their QA team is all GM, so it would have been fine to do that. But they can run this test, and if this feels good, great. We can release Reinhardt just like this, get the last little bit of Overwatch 1 with this Reinhardt. He'll be ready for Overwatch 2. That's great. But if it's not, if he still feels too powerful and we need some more nerfs, that's okay. I've actually got something prepared for that. The next thing we can do is we can work on his health pool. So Reinhardt is really, really bulky. He's got all that armor. That's really too powerful. What we should do is we should take away, say, 50 of that armor. That'll make him less bulky. That's good. Now, but that's like too much. So it's too much. I don't want to do 25. 50 is the right number. So we're going to have to give him something back in exchange for taking away 50 armor. And 150 shields, shield health, not barrier health, would probably be the right approach. It would probably be the right thing to make it even, but we want this to be a nerf. So instead of giving him back 150 shield health, we're going to give him back 100, and because this is just how it works, I mean, shields go over armor, armor. That's just how physics work. They're like shields. They're shields. You don't see people wearing armor over their shields in Star Trek or Star Wars or something like that. Shields are on top. That's how it works. Duh. The shields are, of course, going to go on top. So have that 100 shield health, then have his armor health, then have his regular health. That's going to help out. He's going to be a little less bulky by doing that, and that's going to be just great for him. And I think this makes sense. This really fits with his adjustments that we made elsewhere, where he can spread some of the damage. He can put that guard on someone else, and he starts taking damage. And having some of that be shield health that recovers on its own of his normal health, shield health, barrier health, however you want to think about shield health, I think that's going to work a little bit better, having some of that be that stuff that can recover on its own. Okay, cool. And then here's the thing. You know, Reinhardt is the shield hero, but some people get a little too caught up in his hammer. His hammer. And it doesn't really make sense for this defensive bulwark hero that's all about his shield to have this giant hammer that he just swings around. But the hammer's sort of become part of his identity. So what we're going to do is we're going to take away that big hammer, and we're instead going to give him like this Koopa-style throwing hammer thing. So he's going to chuck hammers with his left click now. He's going to chuck hammers, and if those hammers hit someone, they're going to do a knockback. This knockback isn't going to be like an extreme knockback, but this knockback is going to be something like maybe a third to half the distance of what Briggs' whip shot knockback would be. And remember, this is his left click. He can just hit this, so it can't be as extreme as Briggs' whip shot cooldown. It needs to be less than that. Maybe half is the right number. That'll help slow down people's advance. So that as people are advancing in his team and he's protecting them with his shield, he can also do some hammer throwing to keep them back. This makes more sense than this like swinging around nonsense that he was doing before. We don't want anything to do with that. We instead want to help control the opponent's ability to wander in there. And doing that is going to, really help his team, enable his team a bit. That's what he's supposed to do, but it's going to way bring down his damage, and that's going to be good because he's just been too powerful, running around like a monster for the majority of the ladder for quite a long time now. So definitely needs these nerfs. So overall, that's what I'd recommend we do for Reinhardt. I think it's really going to put him in a much better place, leave the ladder a lot happier. This is my new hero. I mean, this is Reinhardt, no longer OP. This is going to work a lot better, and this is going to really prepare the game for Overwatch 2. So let me know what you guys think. Is this the right way to go about nerfing Reinhardt, to go about setting him at an appropriate level for Overwatch 2? Is this appropriate? I mean, this seems like a really good way to go for me, but I want to know your guys' thoughts. Definitely leave them in the comments down below. Let me know if you think it's what we should do. Be sure to like, subscribe to see more stuff like this. Or if you think there's another hero that I need to address that needs some nerfs or some buffs, you can put that in the comments down below as well, and we could take a look. We've previously covered Hanzo after Blizzard released the Hanzo patch, or the patch that gave Hanzo those bouncing storm arrows. We totally got on that right away, recognized that that wasn't enough for Hanzo. He still needed more, and we did a Hanzo buff one, much like this Reinhardt nerf one. So you can check that one out. I did link that in the description below. So let's do a quick catch up on chat. I think we need to take Moira down a peg next. That might be a good idea. The hammer is Quarterrine's identity. No, it's the shield. Reinhardt is a shield hero who happens to have a hammer in case his shield breaks. He is not a hammer hero who has a shield to get closer to the enemies. I think you're mistaken there. Kiss goodbye. Did he at least get to throw while holding the shield? Of course he does. I don't think the math works out on that claim. Temporal, I think you're mistaken, Levy. I think it's definitely fair to trade 50 armor for 150 shield, but we decided to only go with 100 shield to keep things better because we do want it to be a net nerf. Yeah. I just want to have another brawl meta. Brawl metas are fine. Brawl metas are just fine, but they're really powerful when Reinhardt gets to play in these brawl metas. So we got to be careful that, we're definitely in the middle of a brawl meta right now, seeing a ton of Reinhardt play. He's the strongest tank hero. So I think we actually need to bring it back a little bit, take things a little away from brawl, both by making Reinhardt weaker like this and by helping keep people out of brawl range by throwing hammers at them. Okay. So I think this is going to go ahead and do it. I'll go ahead and call it here. I did want this one to be a short one. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one.